Though I am able to keep myself professional at all times, does not mean I like it. And seeing that most of the day has already gone by before I realized it, I choose to head back to my flat instead. By today being a Saturday. No fun, but at least this way I can definitely avoid another unpleasant encounter. Considering how much I'll be seeing whiskey in the near foreseeable future, I have a feeling I'll need all the rest the weekend can give me. For the first time in a long while, excited as I am to work on the mansion, I cannot wait to be over and done with this project. Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before the last, I spent most of Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm sure that they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. It makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm safe from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. The Wrights lived at the very top, penthouse, the creme de la creme when it comes to condominium and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump so many hoops, so many security checks just to secure a keycard, not only because of building management but because of the Wrights' personal security. It sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime and not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil, elevator door opens and I'm greeted by none other than Whiskey's not so little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon.
No.
I'm surprised to see you made it through security. And only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups, and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignored animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Oh, you're
Hello?
here. You're already here. You didn't say anything.
Yes, I said hello 4 times.
Oh, lol? Nagsalita ka ba? Hindi ko na, ano, hindi ko narinig.
Oo.
I
I
didn't
think
hear.
kasabay ng boses ni Johans.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. Wait lang. For some reason, hina nung, ano eh, ang hina nung boses ko. Ano na naman to? Lolo ko na naman tong OBS eh. Salita nga ulit.
Hello? Hello? Hello, hello?
Yeah, the normal voice.
Yes, this is my normal voice. Hello, hello?
Wait. Wait. 'Wait. 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 ' Sige nga.
Hello, hello? Hello, hello?
Yeah, tuloy lang, tuloy lang.
Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Hello,
Okay.
hello?
Okay na, okay na, okay na. Okay na, okay na. All good, all good.
Okay, 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 okay.
Go back. I ignored the animosity towards... Nabasa ko na pala. Fuck. Accepting the quiet and isolation instead, I braced myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes or even 10. I sit in the living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then, there's a crash. I nearly spill tea all over my lap in surprise, and I look up expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak up about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I am normally not this nosy. What should I do then? Check it out, no, check it out.
Check it out, check it out.
Oo, tayo eh. Ismosa tayo eh. Ano yun natin yun?
We are Marites.
Story updated. Where are we in the thing? Okay, so still went the upper.
Oh, up and out.
The crash came from the hallway and I really shouldn't be snooping about. But it's just concern. Yeah, concern that urges me to check it out. Sneaking a glance at the butler, I consider sneaking off, but
Excuse me, but where's the loo?
hello. He barely looks my way before pointing a spatula towards the hallway. A good excuse as any. If I'm caught lingering longer than I should, I could just excuse myself and say that I wasn't sure which door lead to where. Still, looking into the hallway reveals nothing. I don't see anything that might have caused the crash. The hallway, like the rest of the place, is in pristine condition. There are several doors for not only the toilet but also presumably rooms for their butler and for other members of the staff. As I stand there, however, something feels definitely out of place. One of the doors, the nearest within my reach, stands ajar. From inside, a light flickers incessantly. There's no light flickering. Why do you lie? It
It's
could.
only darkness.
Oh, nga, there's only darkness. There's no light inside.
Copium yan, pare, copium.
Oh, nga. Could simply be a light bulb that needs replacing. But the thought of it in a place so well taken care of seems off. I think that maybe this is where the crash came from. Inside, I can spy a radio lying on the floor. That's probably it, right? Maybe one of the help in a hurry to get out of the room knocked over it in the process. If that's all it is, I should really leave it alone. I turn to leave, the sound of static fills the air, and the man's tinny voice interrupts the silence.
At 7 in the morning, students found a fifth year dead.
Why am I still standing here?
Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
This seems familiar, doesn't it?
Authorities are investigating the possibility of foul play.
A foul play.
Wow.
Like I've heard it before.
Reporting from St. Samthins, Shane McLaughlin of Galway Bay, AM.
Walang nagulat, walang nagulat.
Wala nagulat pare. Hindi yun napasigaw. Pag walang sigaw, walang gulat.
Oh, walang gulat.
Ano go? I, I recoil, backing away from whatever that was. The process, I trip backwards on my feet and I wait for the pain of falling flat on my back. But instead, I feel a hand on my back and see the smug smile of, well, guess who?
Oh, don't tell me you're reporting to work drunk, Mint.
Of course, I know exactly who that voice belongs to. It just have to be him. Di ba parang wrong grammar, just has to be him.
Okay.
Anyway.
Has that or has.
Marianne McCullough, hammered on the job? That would be something.
But as if I had been burned, I push him away from me with a deep scowl on my face. Even his slightest touch makes me sick, and that smug smile on his face makes me want to come in contact with him, if only to break his nose with my fist.
Is that any way to say hello to a good friend?
Good friend.
We aren't friends. Let's get that straight first off, Mr. Right. Secondly, you're a married man, so that thing that happened shouldn't have happened.
Oh, come on, don't tell me it wasn't even a little fun. A bit of a romp never hurt anybody.
No, it wasn't fun, and we shouldn't have done it. But since we did, let's pretend it didn't happen and never speak of it again.
I was drunk and had no self-control. Don't I get a free pass?
I really can't believe this guy. Ano ba? This I don't know kung anong choice ang aangat or baba. But of course, papababain natin ang relationship with Luke. Because fuck you, Luke.
Yes.
Ano ba? I have work to do, sir. That's no excuse.
I think I have work to do.
Yeah, sa tingin ko rin. Kasi based kay Luke, di ba? Pag pinapalagan siya, parang nagugustuhan niya.
Oo, nagugustuhan niya eh.
Okay, let's try. No!
Oh no!
No! No!
We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that.
No! That's no excuse. Yes!
Yes. Ha! Fuck you, Luke.
Restraint and patience are necessary things when dealing with people, and I must have a whole lot of it, considering I'm not tearing him a new hole. I can't believe this guy. I don't even see any inkling of shame or guilt about the fact that he cheated on his wife.
What? No, you don't get a free pass.
Hoy, galit siya, ano pare?
Ano si Best Grill?
Galit si Best Grill.
How can you even say that with such a straight face? You do realize what you've done, don't you? Even if you were drunk, the fact of the matter is, you had at one point taken off your wedding ring and knowingly cheated on your missus. I am quite sure you didn't have one and you blatantly told me you were single when you chatted me up at the bar.
And you're the saint then? But according to you, I was drunk. So you must have taken advantage of me in my state. I fail to see why I'm the only one to blame in this situation.
I didn't think things can get any more preposterous. But apparently I was wrong.
We were both drunk, you bastard. Don't you dare try to twist this around. You don't know who you're messing with.
I'm afraid you're the one who doesn't know who you're messing with, lassie.
Alas.
I know who you are, Marianne McCullough. I've looked into you, you bloody bog jumper. You're nothing but a glorified turf cutter.
What's a bog jump? Let's Google that real quick. Oh my god.
What does it mean?
It means a person of common or low-class Irish ancestry. Holy shit, sinabihan siyang mahirap pare.
Oh.
Glorified turf cutter. What's turf cutter? Turf cutter. It's basically a tool. Turf cutter is a self-propelled turf removal machine that cuts into layers of grass and soil to reveal the ground underneath.
Another term for gold digger?
Then hindi siya gold digger. I don't know. Kasi ano yun, cuts into layers of grass and soil to reveal the ground underneath. Siguro parang sinasabi lang na mukha lang siyang mayaman pero underneath yun nga. He's poor, she's low class, di ba? Yun nata yung parang glorified her. I don't know. Maybe.
I'd be careful with how I speak if I were you. What's that saying about biting the hand that pays you? It goes something like that.
He looked into me? How much does he know about me then? Does he know about my father? Does he know about her? The thought that he has knowledge he can hang over my head kills any fight I have. Instead, I feel sick. This is sick. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's sick in the head one way or another. The dead air between us, because it can't be anything else but that, is broken as a lively voice calls out from the loft. Another.
BRB bro, ano na si...
Magsusundo ka na?
Yes, marami na daw siya. Lights.
Marianne! I hope I haven't kept you waiting too long. I know we agreed we'd start at 10 o'clock, but mornings just simply do not agree with me. Not one bit. It's been like this since I've been in university.
5 minutes to 11 o'clock, these high-end clients sure like to be fashionably late. I'm used to it though, much like how I'm used to so many years of hearing people mispronounce my name. Besides, berating or correcting my client would be extremely impolite, and Marianne doesn't sound too bad when she says it. To be fair, it doesn't seem like she's late on purpose.
I see you're up, darling. You know, you could have woken me up as well. Were you showing Marianne around? Not that there's much to see. This place is so tiny compared to the mansion.
I'm more worried about the way she stares at me, judging. Such a look. It doesn't suit her pretty face at all. Just seeing Mrs. Wright reminds me too much of her. And maybe I'm starting to hear her again, see her again, when I shouldn't. I should have left it all behind, forgotten. Think she would be looking at me that way, I can just feel my hands tremble.
Oh yes, just showing her around and getting to know each other. Isn't that right, Marianne?
Yes, of course. And your butler was making breakfast a while ago. So if you want to get right to that...
Breakfast would be lovely.
There is no denying the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it is too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be terribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly. A bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colorful arrangement. If this was a brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accepted just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables?
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
I stopped. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or place for it, however. Instead, I used this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
The quarters?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies-in-waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Well, we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room, right there, in the northwest corner?
What?
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano, I can't imagine it. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright said so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theater, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Sounds fair, yes. Yes, it's fair. It's good. Mrs. Wright has her points, though I really didn't want to butt into that spat of a husband and wife. But with the way the two were looking at me to sell this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinion.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
See, a garage isn't architecturally feasible, and it isn't going to be financially sound as well. We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough costs of these things by now, love. Masters in Business Administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
Ooh. That catches my attention more than anything. It sounds more unbelievable than whiskey playing the piano. You really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Luxborn U, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know. We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
Not like I have much of a choice, do I? Riding to the Ermengarde mansion in the Rice is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them staring at each other anytime, darting at each other. Nobody is saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment, I think that he might start. But instead, he just stays quiet, and so do the rest of us. In the end, the sufferable silence stays. I have never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride, and I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze in wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I can already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
Alright, Johans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving the car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday I'd like to ask how Johans can even stand to tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employer, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll be working with them during the duration of the project, He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There had been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. First item on the agenda would be the grand staircase. It seemed sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage nor wear and tear, probably threaded during the renovation. Peeking under the grand carpet, the wood is properly installed with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum though. Structural conditions, from what I could see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape. The handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. Can't look much more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
Feels dead, for sure.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them, there is a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. If anyone are to see them like this, there is little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course. And I want a garden full of them.
Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs if anybody needs me.
That leaves Mrs. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere, I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils, least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs.
Alright.
You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes without even asking if I need her here, I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. The Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor, and I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure, but on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. Which floor should I go first? We're going to check first floor. Where did that bring us? There's a QTE. Wait, we're almost done. Okay. I've already seen enough of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that it's just a convenient excuse. I just don't want to be in the same room as Whiskey anytime soon. So I might as well just go upstairs first. The banisters on the grand staircase's landing are solid and at a proper height. Any lower, they would be trouble. There's a small catch on the carpet though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright. And the stained glass art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the last Lady and Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be until Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. By a witch. A witch, of all things. From what I've read, you'd think the historians of this place would be a lot more scrutinizing, filtering out stuff like that. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. This entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, her beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far a stretch of the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. It can be easily assumed as such if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. What can I do about it? Walking into the east wing, I try go into the theater, but is met with an obstacle. The obstacle that is locked doors. 2 doors. 2. Both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated, would be, if I already hadn't snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. With what Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats would have to be reupholstered if they're to be any comfortable. The walls will have to be covered in dark material, paint, wallpaper, or install wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, this one. I could just picture myself in there watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Makes me wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of my notation and planning, I don't even realize that I'm not alone till I'm caught standing in front of a locked door like if...
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she grows quiet and glances out the window. Out towards the vast expanse that surrounded what would be their house. Their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean, not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
The keyword is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what would change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe she'd still be with me. I return to the present, just like I said. I try not to dwell on the past. Interesting. First, I'd like to up the relationship, so I don't use that anymore. No! Sorry. Okay. Must have been quite good.
You must have been quite the pair, Mrs. Wright. Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I like the way her eyes crinkled or how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first. Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him. That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact that I went to an all-girls boarding school, so father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much. That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway. Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't. But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
That takes me by surprise, a lot more than by the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this? I have nothing against them because that's their thing, though the nuns and the priests would say otherwise. Although, wasn't she worried about the implications, the rumors that would have arisen about her dating another of the same sex, especially with someone of her social status?
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want.
Nice.
And when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me had once been with another woman, I can feel my cheeks heat up a bit and I panic, thinking they might be red enough for Mrs. Wright to notice. Can't tell, though a coy smile graces her lips.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and, what do they call it now? Parkour.
Parkour.
And also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Yes, she did.
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth. But I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her. So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion, but he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off. He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
He laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a small smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect.
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run-through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing. I move on, alone with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know what exactly I'm stressed about. Meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop. I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully it isn't that, not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, conscience, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now, though if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet, and the rest of the world just follows. Though my feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in the hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo away. When I open them, bloody house. Well, I don't feel any less sick because of the sight that greets me. Blood dripped from the walls, the ceiling, pulling downwards and seeping into the curtains and the carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt. The rational part of my head is telling me to flee. I would have gladly done as it asked if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on. I have something to show you.
I would have ignored it if I only heard it in my head. But I swear that this time it's coming from one of the rooms. Much further in, to the study. I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. I don't even think as I follow the sound of her voice. ... Hey, kick-ass. Lorraine. Lovely Amanda Lorraine Lasser Fiona. She was my friend, the only one that I had at St. Samthans. I was a scholar, charity case, a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down at me if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve.
Oh, what a name. Maeve.
Why, I ought to teach that butterface a lesson.
Wait, no, Laz! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, though through my highs and lows. Having her as a friend made being in a strange school away from my father all the more tolerable. We saw this poor, helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else, and being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave, so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. The darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan, offering a helping hand. And perhaps I had been too selfish to return the favor.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then.
That's not what I mean!
I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry, it's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her. Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend. I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tumblers.
Because when she told me that she loved me, I couldn't admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. It was wrong. Was thought that way. Husband and wife, one man, woman. Unclean, impure. I prayed for her and for her sins and for her salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. It must have been like a slap to the face for her. Life had gotten in the way. Exams, which were trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship for my father. I told myself I would apologize to her when those were over, that I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset, I get that. Still a bloody house. I thought I had the time to make things right, but...
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead. Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
They told us that it was an accident. That was the official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me.
Maeve had a hoot and I kicked the bucket, didn't she?
I bet she did.
Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had, though she didn't say which, Rain.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck here in a trance. The mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then... I feel bile rise up in my throat as her clean image warps into how she looked like when they found her dead, lying on the cold, hard ground. Good Saint Dimna, a great wonder worker in every affliction of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? Looking everywhere but at her, I hope and pray that it's enough to will whatever this is to go away. Doesn't even immediately register in my head that I can just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
So how can someone look someone like that in the eye? That's creepy as shit.
This isn't real. You're not. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens and I feel my heart beating, torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. The least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate. An unnatural smile stretches across her face and I can only see malice in it. Then she lunges as the mirror ripples around her form, the glass parting like the water's surface for her. Grips my shoulders and I can feel her nails dig deep, sharp, even through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are.
Shit.
Why won't you love me?
Apologies spill through my lips as tears cloud my vision. But I won't give into this madness. With every bit of strength I have left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and threatens to choke me. I endure, I escape. And, without turning back, I stumble back out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall, steady me, I just hobble as fast as I can away from the study. Away from that mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm free from the madness it seems, as running out into the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on Lorraine again. I have no plans of stopping, not until I know I'm safe. And if that means walking back to Luxembourg, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs hold of me, however, fingers digging deep into my shoulder, and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but did something happen? Are you all right?
Mrs. Wright, I...
Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. The sudden impulsive thing to do, and had I been in a better condition, I wouldn't even dare of doing such a thing. But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't, her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She is intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realized I'm no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream about what I have seen, but like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I had seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination, yet I can still feel her wood nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry, I have you.
A lie. But a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by a dead girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. I quickly back away as I clear my throat and nod my thanks.
I think I've had enough looking around. If it's all right with you and Mr. Wright, I'll meet you outside.
If you're sure, I'll have the car started. Do you need assistance heading downstairs?
I'm all right, ma'am. Just go on ahead and I'll be right there.
It seems to placate her worries, though only for a brief second. Before she heads down, I don't miss the concerned glance she shoots my way, hidden quickly under another smile. I won't begrudge her for it. That worry. The look on my face must have been a strange enough sight on its own. Even I am still reeling from whatever that was. Her voice still whispers in my ears. After all these years, she's still... No. And taking my head off the thoughts, I drag in a breath, then follow shortly after Mrs. Wright. Whatever has happened in the past, it's long gone. The memories. Those are things I can no longer bring back. Yep, that's right. It's already dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we are only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars up above us. Sight of them helps me compose myself much more than several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two still stand out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eyes up to the stars. And Mr. Wright, arms crossed, has his eyes down on the ground. It is the crunch of the grass under my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time! What took you so long?
I'm sorry.
A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
Almost did. Almost did.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job? I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
I glanced back towards the mansion. Knowing what I had seen there, or rather who I thought I saw there, because there's just no way. Not to mention how I acted towards Wright, for goodness sake. I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. Yep. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses, say that I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old, sick father. Just pay the fine, which is probably outrageous for a contract like this, and let it go. I should turn it down, but for some obstinate reason, I can't. In the same manner, I haven't let go of her. The regret that has shadowed me since that day. Much as I hate to admit it, even to myself, seeing her again, the mischievous glint in her eyes, the loose tendrils of her hair curled around her forehead. Something I have terribly missed, and now that it's here, almost within arm's reach, My father would tell me, sometimes you just simply have to go through with it. Consequences be damned. And well, I really don't have any logical reason to say no. At least, not something a client like the Wrights would want to hear from a professional designer.
It's certainly an interesting project. You can be sure I'm seeing it through the end.
Such dedication! Oh, I do love the determination.
You were always determined like that, weren't you?
Hearing her voice again sends a chill running down my back. Can't wait for this day to be over. This is the mirror. The mirror indeed. From the mansion and through Anselm, I rode with them in silence. But as soon as we hit city proper, I asked to be dropped off and bid them good night. I thought it'd be best if I didn't stay too long in confined spaces with either Mrs. or Mr. Wright. Both seemed to cause me serious trouble, and if the project had been any less interesting or grand, I would have dropped it without a second thought. Would have. Couldn't have. Won't. I assured them that my place isn't that far off, and I have to fight off the urge to roll my eyes and groan when whiskey throws me a little smirk. But even in my own home, peace is elusive, as is sleep. I lie awake thinking of what I saw in that mansion, of who I saw. If I so much as hear a single whisper from her, if I so much as see a wisp of her hair, I'm afraid I'll go mad. None of that happened. It makes me feel hollow. For 2 nights, I've had trouble sleeping, but it's only one morning when fatigue has already let me rest that I'm reminded of what terrifies me so. In my restless dreams, I see that mirror, the one in the study, and in it, I see her. I see them. Lorraine and Hannah. Hannah and Lorraine.
Poor pathetic Marianne. Work, work, work. She'll work herself to death.
See, she doesn't listen. That's all she did. Look at what happened to me.
They talk among themselves with cruel smiles and venomous tongues. Or rather, to themselves, 2 heads, 1 body. Horrible mockery of these women, as if they were the one and the same.
More's the pity. Life goes on and goes out, and she doesn't even see it.
Do you think she'll even realize when she's kicked the bucket herself?
When they say a person has a hard time telling when they're in a dream, it was true often enough. Even with this bizarre sight, even with the obvious implication that this isn't real, I can't help but feel distress.
Likely. Is that any way to live at all? She might as well be dead.
Cruel fate that she's alive and I'm... well...
So dead. Though they speak into each other's ear, tones slow and hushed, I can still hear them as clear as day. Their whispers pervade the air, heavy and oppressive. They bury and dig into my head like tiny maggots, worming their way into my skull. It's only then that they take notice of my presence. Eyes turn towards me, and I can only feel small under their scrutiny. Caricature smiles etch on their faces, mimicking each other grotesquely.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Have you been looking at us? Spying? How scandalous. Such a naughty girl.
I'm sure you were just waiting for something lewd to happen, weren't you?
Possibly.
You know she will not admit it. She thinks it wrong. You've said it so yourself.
Yes. She thought me wrong, impure, abnormal, because I loved her.
My breath hitches and I open my mouth to protest, but they stop me, screeching. The mirror that holds them cracks, lines spidering across its surface.
Do not lie! We know the gluttonous thoughts you try to deny, girl. All those desires you bury beneath that sickening guilt. You act the martyr when you turn the bed you lie in into your own hedonistic hell. You are nothing but a tainted soul with filth-stained flesh held together by falsehood and pride.
They look livid, and when it looks like they would lunge, I wake, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of me. With a groan, I squint and find a certain fluff ball sitting on my chest, looking as pleased as Punch. Hey. Beruthiel saved us. He is the overlady of the cats, queen of despair and destruction of nice furniture. Though I can't stay mad at Her Majesty because it feels like she did something good this time. It's something good. I was having a nightmare, but I can't even remember what it was about. Trying to recall leaves a terrible pit in my stomach. Maybe it's probably better that I don't remember.
Good morning, Beruthiel. Who's the good kitty? Are you hungry? Is that why you woke me up?
Content purr comes from my sweet dear before she jumps off the bed and trots towards the kitchen. Toward the kitchen. On the other hand, it takes me a bit more before I roll out of bed and start my day. Mornings before work is always a quiet affair. Shower first, then a mug of coffee, and a bowl of oats. Sometimes I do stretches, and I always check my work email. The Wrights will be moving into the mansion today. I don't think the paperwork is officially done yet, but it isn't too far-fetched to think they were allowed to start their move, despite that. Rich people like them will always find ways to get what they want after all.
I'll be leaving you again today, Beth. So you behave and make sure not to shred up my new covers, okay?
Okay, mommy.
And don't worry, I didn't forget tomorrow is Black Cat Day, so I'll throw you a party. But only if you behave like a proper lady.
She barely gives me a glance as I say that before going back to her own food. Habits. Still better than humans, most of the time. Too bad I have worked with humans. The place is already busy as soon as I get here. Foreman, one that I've recommended to the Wrights for his work ethic, is early as usual. Already he's instructing men here and there with the bigger loads. I have no chance to talk to him as Mrs. Wright appears and greets me with a smile.
Mrs. Wright, I hope everything has been to your liking thus far.
Good morning, Marianne. It has been delightful and these men have been very helpful. Look at all this. It's so busy here. I'm getting tired just looking at them go.
No complications so far with the movers or the previous owners of the mansion, I hope?
If anything, the only one being problematic is Luke, if I'm to be honest. He can be such a diva, but I do like that about him.
He stops looking at the upper landing where Mr. Wright comes through with two other movers and the mirror from the study.
Oh, do be careful with that mirror. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt because of broken glass. Why are you even having it carried around?
Oh? You did say you didn't want the mirror, and I keep getting distracted by it. If I'm going to turn the study into my office, I'd rather not have it there. Where can we put this?
Well, you are not putting it in our room. Why don't you go, I don't know, put it in the wine cellar for now? We can figure out if we'll store it in the attic or somewhere else later, yes?
You heard her, boys. To the cellar it goes. Mush!
The movers bring down the mirror one step at a time, no matter how much the man tells them to hurry. An unsettling feeling grows in my stomach as I see our reflection in the bloody thing. I look away, not wishing to risk anything. If I see Lorraine's image in the mirror now, I wouldn't know what to do. I don't have the luxury of privacy right now, and I'm not going to break down in front of all these people. Pretty updated. Mrs. Wright only shakes her head and laughs at her husband's antics as they take the mirror out of view. He's back and at it again soon enough, pointing the men here and there. I'd say he's the man with the plan, but it sort of interferes with the layout and design that we've agreed upon before. I'm about to point it out, but...
It's better you let him realize his mistakes on his own, rather than tell him of them. That way you do not get blamed for his actions. It is more fun, too, to tell him, how do they say it? I told you so, once he slips up.
Been working with him long enough to know that, huh?
Not like I plan to make too much of a fuss unless what he changes is actually crucial.
It happens often enough, when one is made to accompany him nearly all hours of the day.
Up, higher, come on now!
Still, he could at least be less pushy about things.
Careful now! I know your pictures are framed by cheap plastic, but those are framed by African blackwood and are one-of-a-kind commissioned paintings. Each one is easily worth a lifetime of what you lot make.
It's surprising how hands-on he is compared to my usual clientele. Well, the both of them are, really. Refreshing to have them participate, despite their initial reluctance.
Luke, do the dishwashers go into the kitchen or the butler's pantry?
Pantry, Buttercup. Careful, that's Emma No, you there, put that down. You do not manhandle a Napoleon Abueva.
He really needs to tone down the dramatics a lot. Is it right? The butler looks like they're used to it by now. For the rest of us, well...
Sweetie, why don't we go and sort your suits upstairs? Let your Hans and Marianne and the foreman deal with the rest of the work.
We have this, Mrs. Wright.
Yes, please do go before a blood vessel bursts. Bloodstains are so troublesome to clean.
There's an obvious sense of relief as Mr. Wright is dragged out of the room, leaving the movers to do their work in peace. Some grumbling even comes from some of the younger workers. The good thing the family butler isn't some blindly loyal tool to his boss, or there will be trouble with Mr. Wright.
He is such a bratwurst. Whiny baby who never got enough hugs from his mutter.
Probably lost in translation, and not that I'm condoning talking about someone else behind their back, but I think you meant to call Mr. Wright a horrible brat.
Well, he is that too. There are a lot of things I can call him, but I mean to say that he is a big weenie. A childish name for a childish person. Like a child, he whines when he doesn't get what he wants, and he breaks the toys that he has.
That gets a laugh from me, as well as a few of the movers who linger near. He and I carry boxes instructing the movers where they should be and generally taking over Mr. Wright's work. Goes off without a hitch, and the man is helpful, efficient, and capable with physical labor, despite his clean-cut appearance. Gentleman to boot, taking boxes from me when he sees me struggling with them. Speaking of boxes...
Hey, one of the boxes for the kitchen is missing?
Is it now? Let's stop here.
Has anyone seen it? The one with the pots and the knives.
The bratwurst had it brought upstairs, thinking it was for the attic.
Why would he... Oh, never mind. I'll go get it.
Why even bring a box of pots and knives to the attic? That man is ridiculous. There's probably no point in making sense of what he does if he does them just because he can. At least it turns out that I don't have to make it all the way up to the attic. The mover, probably on Mr. Wright's orders, left the box on the stairs.
At least it's not that heavy.
I managed to hoist it up without too much effort. But the time it takes for me to do that is long enough for me to overhear an odd conversation I could. Never in my life imagined coming from a couple like the Wrights.
Why, if you're not careful, I might go a bit loopy and I'll start bringing cats home. And soon enough, one day you'll find yourself going home to a farm just filled with felines that follow you everywhere.
Oh, don't bluff. The things would shred up your precious furniture. Besides, you don't even like cats.
True. Dogs are infinitely superior, of course.
But what about the wet dog smell? The mess. I'm not cleaning up after a mutt, no matter how cute. If you think about it, a cat would be better.
For once, I'll have to agree with Whiskey on this one, though I can live with Mrs. Wright being a dog person. But as amusing as this conversation might get, I really shouldn't be caught eavesdropping or slacking off on the job. At most, I should be looking at ways of possibly soundproofing certain rooms, perhaps bringing it up if they don't realize the lack of it. I really should